Hi, welcome to another exciting episode of Transcend, the Thinking Christian talk show. Unlocking truth, say it with me guys, transcending lives. This week I am so happy, I'm so elated to have a dear friend, a brother, a fellow laborer in the vineyard, and this side of the vineyard, a fellow minister at my local church here in Mississauga, elder. He is an elder, an ordained elder in God's holy church. He is also by trade an engineer, and I am happy to have him to discuss this very exciting topic, God in migration. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you my good friend, a laborer in the vineyard, Elder Jonathan Jackson. Brother, bro, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you very much.
So, Jonathan, just before we get into the meat of the matter,
Yes.
Tell us about yourself. Tell our viewers, transcenders, about yourself, how long you have been saved, just a brief background, and your career path as well.
Okay. It's a pleasure to be here once again. I am the eldest of 4 children from my mother. So I'm the first boy. My mother has 2 boys, 2 girls. I grew up in Upper St. Andrew and moved to Spanish Town at the age of 13. And so that's where I was introduced to a rough life.
Was it rough in Upper St. Andrew?
No, but when I got to Spanish Town, it was a rough life. So from there to high school, Excelsior High School, from there to, I spent 1 year working, and then from there to Jamaica Maritime Institute, where I did marine engineering. And as a youngster, I wanted to go on the vessels, but my mother said no, because she was afraid of what might happen to me. I might die at sea and all the stories. But I think that was my fault, because I used to bring home the stories from class and tell her, because
so you drove the fear in her.
Yes, and it later acted out on me. And from then I moved on to UTech, because I recognized that I had to stay on land. I did electrical engineering, and then after that I did a management degree. And now my walk with the Lord now, I always loved the Lord from a youngster. My mother always sent me to church, even though she never ever went. But I was always in church, always in Sunday school. And one day in Spanish Town, a young girl came at my gate knocking, and she started introducing the gospel to me. And surprisingly, that young lady name is Katie Ann.
No way.
yes. And she introduced the gospel to me, and
she's your wife today. Wow.
And she invited me out to a street meeting. And at the street meeting, I accepted the Lord. And early the Sunday morning, they came for me, took me out of bed, and baptized me in the name of Jesus Christ. And so from there I began my walk. I was always eager about knowledge. I love the scripture. Before even getting to know Christ, I used to read the scriptures. I used to study. I used to read a lot, right? And I had this peak interest in Sunday school. And so when the church that I started out, I shifted to another church, because at work I was working at Wisinko at the time. Mm-hmm. And I had a good friend, and he was a pastor of a church. But I always admired the way he deciphered the Word of God, and how he explained it, and he was like a walking Bible. And I said to myself,
and he was a pastor.
He was a pastor, and he was a very, very humble man. Humble. When I tell you in the true sense of humility, he was so humble, and I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to spend some time with this man. And he became very dear to me. Very, very dear to me. And he helped me through my walk with Christ, helped me. He gave me a lot of advice, all the steps. He was like a mentor, like a father figure to me, and that's how I started out. So God has been good.
But one of the things though that I must say I'm very intrigued about. You are one that is well-rounded, because I know you, and I have had the opportunity to interact with you. You're well-rounded, both spiritually and secularly. As we would have said before, as you would have said before, you're an engineer, and you also hold a degree in management. How did you what led you to say that you're leaving Jamaica and migrating to Canada?
Well, it all, I'll tell you something. It all started out with my wife. She was here for about 10 years before I came here. And at that time we weren't married, right? So we got married, and she decided that I must come to Canada. Now, I'm in a job, and promised to me I was looking to become the general manager in the next 2 years.
Wow.
The next 2 years. And I went to the director and I told him that, I'm leaving for Canada. And he says to me, Jonathan, you're crazy. Come out of my office, man. Come out of my office. Because, I'm one of them persons that they learn to depend on me. I've solved the problems. And so, I moved up steadily. And so the next point was to be general manager, because the then general manager, he was going to be retired in the next 2 years. And so that position is mine. The chairman says it's mine. The managing director says it's mine. So all I'm there just waiting. All right? Now, my wife says, you gotta go. Gotta come. We're leaving. And I'm thinking, and I said, boy, I can't disappoint her. But I don't want to go.
So you're saying that...
I didn't tell her that,
So you're saying that you didn't want to... This big, beautiful, or this big perception of Canada, you didn't want to go?
You see, in the first... When I thought about it first, it seemed glorious and everything. But when I thought about it some more, and I realized that, maybe I have to go and brush dog teeth. Alright? And I have to go and work at McDonald's. and then...
Big engineer.
and then I wasn't even thinking about the engineering. I was just thinking, as a man, as a father, as a husband, how you going to provide with $12 an hour? Or I think at the time it was $15 an hour. Who can that pay bills? And knowing that the rent in Canada at the time was $1,500 or $1,200. Right? And I have children that is going to school, and so I got cold feet. And I didn't want to disappoint her. And so, I prayed, I fast. I don't eat food for about 2 straight days. Absolute. 3 straight days. Because I prayed to God and said, God, boy, I want to go, but I don't want to go. And it was all about the economic situation. Because it's exciting. I know after a while, then, give it, I would say probably about 5-6 years, then probably, I may get back in the field, because I've known persons while I was at Wisinko that left and came back.
Really?
Yes. I've known persons that left, went to England, come back to Wisinko. I've known person that went to Canada and come back. So, and these persons were professional people. But the threat of starting over, and it's not that, it's just yourself and your wife, and you say, okay, we can, kids have to eat. Kids have to eat. And then at the same time, you're a man, I'm used to providing.
How difficult it was for you knowing that you were promised. A matter of fact, you were told that this position is yours. How difficult it was, even though you're stuck between a rock and a hard place where your wife is over here and she said, you need to come, and that's your wife, that's your sweetheart, your honey,
yes.
And your life.
And you can't disappoint.
And you can't disappoint her. But general manager over here, wife over here. Ultimately, we know that you chose to be with your wife.
Mm-hmm.
But how difficult it was to walk into that office and say, I'm resigning.
It was hard, but what comforted me is that when I thought about my wife, and I thought about the sacrifices that she was willing to make for me, then I said to myself, this is
the lease.
And whatever I lose here, I know I probably can gain it much more. And even if I don't, we have a strong relationship. And that is what pushed me through. But I tell you, one at a time I was thinking that, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go over there and I'm going to tell the director that, here what, give me 8 months. Spend some time with my wife, convince her that, here what, it don't work out, Go back. But I didn't disappoint her. I disappointed the director. I stayed, and God has been good. God has been good. All step of the way.
So, Jonathan, when so now you left your job and you're here in Canada. Tell us about that transition process.
When I got here one Saturday night. When I got to the airport, myself and my wife, and you know that when you enter Normal Manley on that first counter, and it was in COVID time, and the lady said, you cannot go because you don't have a PR. And Canada is only accepting people with PR. And my wife said, no. And she stood up as the mother hen she is, because she's always, she's the one. And it's because of her that I got on the plane.
Really?
Yes, because the lady was turning me back.
So at that moment you weren't thinking that maybe this is a sign from God?
I was thinking, but I could not show my wife that side.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't show her that side. I had to say, I'm here and I'm all the way, 100%. But it for me, it's just the love. It was nothing else that drove me past those obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because, I, as a husband to a wife, I need to be with her. I need to comfort her. I can't allow her to go back by herself.
Yeah.
Surely
that would have been heartbreaking.
Yeah. I couldn't do that. So, even there. And so when I got here in Canada, when I slept my first night, I woke up in the morning and I said to myself, boy, a man without a job, a man without a church. Mm-hmm. And I said, boy, wife, you look at me going up one Catholic church down the road.
That's what you said?
Yeah, that's what I said to her. I said to her, I'm a man now without a church. I'm a man now without a job. All I have is a wife. And she looked over and hugged me and laughed, you know. And because, you know, she's a person like this. She drove me out. She's one of them excellent tour guide. She drove me out and she said, this is that. And, you know, she introduced me to everything and carried me all around the place. But still, I put the best out. But, you know, it was just a day. But I felt like it was a month. and worse, it was pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, everybody was locked in and, you know, you couldn't go out and so on and so forth. And she was working from home too. And so, you know, we spent more time together, you know, and, you know, getting to, you know, rekindle some flames and stuff like that. So it was bad, but it was an awesome time. It was an awesome time.
PG-13. but talk to us now about your expectation, or what the expectations you had about life in Canada.
I expected it to be hard because of the stories that I heard, and my wife, she had a rough journey when she came here, and so I only knew of a rough journey.
Based on what you were told.
Yeah, I didn't know anybody that it was smooth and was having a fabulous time, and you know, it was the best thing in their life and so on and so forth. I only knew that it was rough, so I was preparing my mind, and you know, my wife, she's like this. She likes to give me pep talks. So she was giving me a pep talk that, you know, when you come, what are you prepared to do? Are you prepared to go and pack shelves? Are you prepared to mop the floor? You know, are you prepared to take orders and not give orders? Are you prepared to not to be the center of attention? So she gave me all those pep talk because, you know, coming from where I was, you know, I was the center of attraction and everything I gave order, I didn't take any order, so on and so forth. And she asked me, can you manage this? And I said, well, I'm willing to do what it takes.
Now you meant it.
Yes, you know, I'm willing to do what it takes. So when I came, I was expecting to probably find something at McDonald's, you know, or find something at Walmart. You know, that's the famous thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
almost, I believe that like almost 90% of immigrants, their first job is Walmart.
Yeah, I was expecting that. And
shout out to Walmart.
I was expecting a Walmart or a McDonald's or somewhere in some dark corner doing something I'm not comfortable doing. Right? But, you know, for whatever it is. And when I was leaving, the director gave me some money and said, you know what, pay your rent, you know, settle yourself and come back.
Your director?
Yeah, he gave me some money.
Jesus, that would be difficult me leaving. Me have a good director like that. It's not like my situation where I was leaving, you know, the police force, where I had good friends, I had good supervisors, but you have someone there where make you look up to this guy and say, I can't wait to go on the plane if he doesn't say bye bye.
He gave me, I think it was 6 months rent. Yeah.
Remind me why you come to Canada again.
My wife. Yeah. So he gave me 6 months rent. So I didn't personally have any money because I was doing all sort of stuff. And when I was leaving, I didn't sell the house, I didn't sell the car, I left everything. Right? It's while I was here that I sold the car. Right? So, you know, in terms of personal money, not much. But he gave me 6 months rent. And, you know, with the idea that I'm coming back. right?
Oh, he had that expectation.
That he had that expectation that I'm coming back, I'm just going to settle things with my wife, and so on and so forth, and so it having that, I was able to pay rent for a while, right? And then 3 months into it, because I came here the December, and the January passed, and my wife started the paperworks, because she could have done the paperworks, leave me in Jamaica and come here, do the paperworks, and then come back for me. But she decided she's not leaving me.
She wanted here.
Yeah, she wanted me here. And so we spent some time, January, sending in the paperworks, and then I was hoping that
I don't cut it, which is a come to mind as I'm listening to you. Reunited. But I just had to throw that in there.
Yes, yes, right. So we're doing the paperwork now, because all I had was a visa, right? So I had my Canadian visa for a good while, right? Because I came to Canada first to buy equipment and stuff for the company. So, I was kind of familiar with some of the territory.
So to an extent, you were like a traveling officer also for the company.
Yeah, I bought equipment while I went to Europe, all over the place buying equipment. And so when in February, because we came to December, January doing the paperwork, sending the paperwork February, and we were hoping to get the work permit within 3 months, right? And so I was saying to myself, calculating, because while I was here, I was still getting paid.
Oh.
Yes, I was still getting paid from Jamaica. Right? And then when I recognized that if I leave Canada after I've submitted the paperwork, then I have to start everything all over again. So that put another dent in what I was thinking. Right? And so I had to resign by the end of February from the job. And then, I get a royal cuss out.
I can just imagine.
I get a royal cuss out. But, and then we were waiting now for the work permit, because remember, I don't have a work permit. I can't apply to no job. So even though...
So it's like you're a sitting duck.
Yes. So even though I was thinking that I could go to Walmart and get a $12 hour job, that wouldn't work. So I think April or so, April, now is about 3 to 4 months after, I remembered that the last time I came to Canada, I had one of the brethren that I bought one of the equipments from. So I was starting to reach out to people and, hey, what's going on, man? How things are? He said, I'm in the place, man. I said, yeah. He said, yeah, man. And he said to me, Jonathan, you're in Canada? And I said, yes. My boss wants somebody. The boss wants somebody, hold on, man. You want a job? And I said, yes, man. I need a job. But I don't have nothing yet. The man said, quiet yourself, man.
Quiet yourself.
Yes. So I was taking my wife to the doctor. And while we were coming from the doctor, I got a phone call, and it was his boss on the line. And he says, Jonathan, I hear that you're here. And I say, yes, I'm in Canada. And he says to me, I know your skill level, and I'm going to offer you a job. And I said, I don't have no work permit yet, I don't have nothing. I said,
You told him that straight up?
Yes. I said, it's
you
okay,
must be a brave man, because probably me, I wouldn't say anything to him, because I would be afraid of turning him off. That I can't bother then.
Yeah, I told him, and he said to me, all right, Jonathan, I'm gonna make you an offer, and he made me an offer over the phone while we were driving home. And I said to him, boy, that needs something else.
Yes, you said that?
Yes.
No, sir.
Yes. Yes. I said it needs something else. And he said, all right, I'll step it up. And he stepped it up and said, okay, I'll send you a letter. You just sign it. And then after, if this job is a fit for you, then we can move forward. And he took me on. Took me on. So it was
just like that.
Just like that. Just like that. I tell you, God is good.
So what was it like? What was the response of your wife and all of that?
Oh, she was elated.
Excited.
She was elated. She was elated because remember, you know, things I've resigned from the job now, so I'm not getting the Jamaican money anymore, right? And the money running out now. At least my money, because she's still working. But you know, being the
man.
Yes, and you know, I can't manage them things. You know, I have to provide.
That's in your DNA.
Yes. Yes. And so it just came right on time.
Woo!
Right on time. And so God is good. God is good. I tell you.
So how long you stayed there?
I stayed there for a year and a half because I tell you something, the PR came 1 year after, so the following February, and the work permit that was supposed to come 3 months after the application came 1 month after the PR.
1 month after the PR.
1 month after the PR.
Wow.
1 month. So the work permit that I should have had, and you know what was the date on the work permit? It was dated like 6 months after the application, but it got to me 1 month after, a year and 1 month later.
Wow. Yeah, but Jonathan, did you experience any culture shock when you just came?
I spent most of the time with my wife, so I don't know about the culture shock. Okay. Yes, we didn't, because it was pandemic, we weren't exposed much. Right? It's really now after the pandemic and coming out of the pandemic that I'm exposed to most of the Canadian life. Right?
Alright, so tell us about you finding a church, and tell us what role the church played in your transitioning process, and do you think that church have a role to play in migration?
Because it was pandemic, she was watching online, so we kind of watched Kingdom Life for a while. She would watch some other stuff, but I wasn't used to that yet. I was more involved, right? Because when I left the church in Jamaica, it really hurt. To leave the people behind and to leave, the work behind, it was a tough thing. I'm not such one for praise and worship if you're not there, right? So I mostly was waiting for the preaching time. So I saw a bishop, as usual in his energetic way, but just the interfacing with YouTube, it wasn't what I wanted. And so what Kate,
just wasn't the same.
No, and what Kate did is that she tried to book the time for us to go because I wanted to be there. And when I went there, it was awesome. And I had to meet the bishop, and I tell him, boy, YouTube don't do nothing for yourself. The energy that he had and the impression that he made on me, and when I saw Kingdom Life and how it was organized and how it was run, the management of it, I was so impressed. And I was impressed with the bishop.
It's so funny because I did the exact same thing I was impressed with.
Yeah, everything was so organized, was so oiled, and I loved the energy that he put into the thing. And so we met with him, and the next thing I did, Kate took me to another church. It was more of a smaller thing, they needed more help, right? And I said to myself, Kit, you know what? I'm gonna stay here and help these people because I feel led to help. Because coming from Jamaica, I was hands-on in the church and I wanted to help. And so I took up the phone and I asked Bishop if we could meet with him, because I'm not a part of Kingdom Life, but Kate was a member. And so I spoke to him and I asked him kindly if I could, I want to go to another church and I'd love to take Kate with me, but we're not gone and we're coming back, so I'd appreciate it if he gave her the time to come. And he said yes, and it was a wonderful conversation that we had with him. I've never spoken to him so, intimately before, but it was a wonderful conversation. And so we went to that church and we stayed there for some time. Now, in terms of the church helping, yes, whenever the first thing as you get off that plane, you need to be met by people of faith, because Canada is a place that takes faith. If you don't have any faith here, Minister Lennox, I don't know what will happen to you.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to give up, right? It's easy to say, here what, I'm tired of this, I'm frustrated, and I'm heading back home. And so I could understand when people come back home, especially if they were used to a certain level, right? And so the place of faith is exactly what it says it needs to be. Help you with your faith, guide you along, encourage you, have ways where, or even contacts. For example, my wife, she worked with Access. Access help newcomers, right? And she was awesome with that. So I had a little bit of help there. She always encouraged me because, she helps other people coming in. She was more my strength and my backbone, right? So without my wife, I think I would have been in Jamaica a long time. So the church needs to play a bigger part, right? The church need to be connected to all the arms of government that can help, the places like Access that can help, and so on and so forth. And most importantly, help you with your faith. Yeah. Because it's difficult when you are getting frustrated in this place.
And to that very point, I remember even when I moved here as well, my wife and I, we didn't have anybody. We didn't have anybody, and it's easy to get lonely. It's easy to get frustrated. And I think one of the biggest things for me, I've never felt like I wanted to go back, because I came here with a goal and an objective. But when it hit me, when I got real discouraged, was I was working in a supermarket and I used to give out test samples to various brands. So somebody shopping, I would give them a taste of this. And I remember I was cleaning up, and when I finished, and I was cleaning up my booth, and I was cleaning up the garbage, and somebody just walk on while I was cleaning up the garbage, and just throw the cup right in the bag with the liquid and everything, and I'm right there cleaning up, and I hold up and I said to myself, look at me, big old police. I was a big old police in big profession in Jamaica. On my way to be to getting promotion. Look at what me I do, a clean up garbage and people. It hits me.
It's tough. It's tough. I tell you, Minister, a lot of nights I set my alarm clock and I get up 2:33 and I go down. We were in our basement at the time, and I go to the living room area, and I go there while my wife's sleeping, and I make sure I draw up our room door. And I bawl out to God. I have tears and tears. I bawl out to God. And I say, God, you know, sometimes without words. And then I'm praying for the paperwork to come through, because now I can say, okay, you know, I bargained for 60,000, I can get that 130,000 now. No. And plus I had kids, right?
Yeah.
And I wanted my kids to come too. So I spent the nights, whenever time I sleep, until 6 o'clock, if the alarm go off and I don't hear it. When I wake up in the morning, I'm frustrated because I didn't pray, I didn't bawl out to God. Because, you know, having my wife is a fabulous person, right? And she always take me out and try to encourage my spirit and so on. So, but my real encouragement come when I lay before God. As a man and as a husband, you have to encourage her. You understand? So certain things or certain postures that I have, she will never see it. You know, I have to just go before God and tear out my eyes and say, Father, why this thing taking so long?
Yeah.
Right? So whenever I miss my alarm and I get up 6 o'clock, I am frustrated, I'm dreaded, I'm just upset because I miss an opportunity to ask God to make it come tomorrow. Yeah, you understand me? I can't.
You feel like you cheat yourself.
Yes. It's like I'm if I don't spend the night on my knee, I feel like it not gonna happen. And that's how I lived right through that season. Right through that season.
But you know what I want to ask you though, like, and this is a controversial one. Because you explained to us, you know, how you moved to Canada and the process and all of that. But what about those? What about those that would have came here and they came here illegally, and this, some would argue that this goes against biblical principles of obeying governmental authority. How do you respond to this perspective? That because the topic is God in migration, and I know people that come here and them stay, don't go back home, and God work and some things will happen to them whilst they're here. You have to say there's nobody could have done that but God. But you have some that will say, no, I don't got that, and if she run from morning to do what she do, and what do you say to that?
You know,
and this is your
personal view.
This is your theological godly view now.
My theological godly view is that you can't disobey the laws of the land as long as it's not contrary to, you know, your belief, you know, what the Bible say we should do, right? Because the Bible says we must even honor, right, those who are above us, and they are set to put things in order, right? So the Bible tell us that we need to honor them and obey them.
But right? I don't want to cut you, Jonathan, but I have to cut you.
Yes.
But if I have government, if I have kingdom, heavenly authority, governmental authority in the heavenlies, why do I need to pay attention to man's authority? And even so, I have to obey them because the Bible encouraged me to obey them. Fine. But we see it evident that God still take care of those people that maybe would have disobeyed.
Yes.
And God make the crooked straight for them.
Yes, but what you have to remember too is no man has authority unless God gives it to them. So the governor who has authority is God put in there. The judge is God. The prime minister is God. So he organized earthly kingdom to keep people organized. Right? And so the Bible says we must obey them. And Paul speak about it a lot. Right? And so it's crucial that as a child of God, you try your best to obey the law. But there are times, right? And we look at it, let's use the example in Acts, where the people of God came under persecution and they had to flee. So they came under religious persecution. No one could argue that a lot of us in Jamaica at a particular time, we came under economical persecution. We can't find food to eat.
I like that one. I like that
Some of us came under social persecution.
Yes.
We had to flee. And you see, once you come under a certain level of persecution, yes, the government that you're fleeing to may not agree that that's persecution. But if you're hungry, you're hungry. Right?
Yes,
if you need opportunities, it's not that you want to be of a certain type. Right? You just want to live a peaceful, godly life with regular opportunities like everybody else. But your country is not providing that.
Yes.
Right? And so you flee and you come to a new look. A lot of us who can migrate easy, the first person who left the family, probably they run off. They establish themselves.
Yes.
And they file for so, and they file for so, and they file for so. Not to say
God in migration.
not to say as a Christian that's the path you must take. Right? But we have to be real, and I'm a realist.
But what
You
about
have to be real.
But what about those that will say, Elder, it's easy for you to talk because you're a big engineer and your wife a Canadian and it was easy for you to migrate and she did your papers. But me not have that same opportunity, so me have to grab the bull by the horn. What about those that will say,
And you can sit back and sympathize, right? You can sit back and sympathize, but you have to encourage people to do what is right. Some of the time, it's just a matter of waiting, right? And I've seen where God provide opportunities. All you have to do is wait. Sometimes a farm work program come up, right? Sometimes a job thing come up. Sometimes a wife come for you. Sometimes a husband. Looking at it from a theological point of view, I've had things in my life that I want to do, and the Lord said, wait. Right? And if you don't wait and go ahead, you spoil everything.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times we have to wait. It is hard, it is tough, and it is frustrating. Right? But you have to wait, and you have to now develop an eye for opportunity. Right? Not to say you're opportunistic, right? But develop an eye for opportunity. So when God opens the door and it opens for a time, you make sure you're going. Right? So you have to do that and prepare.
Yes.
You have to prepare. So I have to encourage people in that sense.
One of the things though
Mm-hmm.
that I want to touch on, which is critical. How did you navigate the social differences? The Canadian way versus the Jamaican way. How do you navigate that?
Again, it was my wife. In Jamaica, you would, for example, if somebody come in, and especially a female, if they come in and they dress good, they say, nice outfit. She warned me, don't do that. Don't do that. People will take it as an offense and that you're hitting on them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So because she was here, she gave me all the list and she kept reminding me, don't do that. So at one point, I didn't speak unless I was spoken to. Right? I was even afraid to say hi. Right?
When I was coming, I was worried about that too.
Yes, I was afraid to say hi, and it was a little bit difficult, and it was a little bit frustrating because that's not in our culture.
No, we're social.
Yes, that's not in our way of life, and so just to walk into a room like a regular Canadian does, and act as if everybody's invisible. It was difficult to do that.
You know, one of the things that I found extremely difficult, you're living beside somebody 5 years, 10 years, and you don't know them. You see them, but you don't have a conversation with them. You don't, like, they're next door to you, they're there, and you're here. It's not like Jamaica where you go to your neighbor friends and say, hey, what go on, how you do? You know, that was something eye-opening. Yeah, do you have any, like...
Yeah, I found that they were what you'd call acting polite, but not really polite. And I found that what they do is, like, I saw somebody walk up to a person, they play with the person's dog, didn't say hi to the person, and walked away.
Huh?
Yeah. and another thing that I was told, if you want to make friends, get a dog and go to the dog park. Right? And this is the way of Canada. But nevertheless, I used to talk to my neighbors. We used to have long discussions, very long discussions. Right? We spoke about church, we spoke about everything. And we became what you'd call, some thing between us where we could reason. But it was weird.
Very.
It was weird, and it took some time getting used to, and even though I'm not used to it, I still say hi even if you don't want to answer, and even if you give a fake smile, I still say hi.
One of the things that I had to tell my sister, because the same thing happened to her. About 2 days ago, she went into a Tim Hortons and she walked in and she was like, "Good morning." There was just this one lady inside, and she said the lady just looked at her and just turned away her head and didn't say anything. I said, "Yeah."
Welcome to Canada.
Welcome to Canada.
Yes.
So my sister was thinking it personal that maybe it's because of the color of her skin. And I said, no, that's how they are. With almost everybody. I want to get to the last question. I think the last question is critical. With all your life experiences, with your worldview, with all that you have accomplished, you have traveled extensively. You have been to Europe. You have been. You coming to Canada wasn't your first time. You are somebody with a lot of knowledge and experience, both secularly and spiritually. I want you, Jonathan, to give us your advice.
Firstly, I would say make some connections. Don't isolate yourself. If you're coming to Canada, you know where you're going. Look for the churches in the area. Everybody's on YouTube now. Look if that's the type of place you want to worship. Find your place of worship. Get connected to. There's LinkedIn. Look at the business places in the area. Know what you're capable of doing. So if you know you're coming to Canada and based on what I'm coming with, then I may have to start at a Tim Hortons, I may have to start at a Walmart. Prepare your mind, look at those Walmart, look who are the managers there. LinkedIn is a very, very good tool, right? Look at places like Access that help people. When you come in, they have bridging programs, they have all sorts of things. They work closely with Humber, right? I learned all those things through my wife. Right? And don't be afraid to reach out and step out. Don't be afraid. Canada is more of a social networking place. Is who you know. Don't be afraid to reach out and talk and to go on LinkedIn and say, okay, can I be, message somebody, message a manager of something within the area that you think you may be able to get a job there. So before you come up, you already have some contacts. And it's important to find a church where you're comfortable to worship. And even though YouTube is not a good measure, or Facebook is not a good measure, but you can always look at the congregation, listen to the messages, see if they align with your doctrine from which you're coming out of, right? And just find something in that area, right? Don't be afraid to reach out to even the pastor in the church, the secretary in the place. Hey, I'm coming from Jamaica. Could I be a part of your brotherhood? Could I be a part of your sisterhood? We have to do our part.
Yes.
Right? And once you learn to do your part, then sometimes it gets easier. Right? And trust in God. Trust in God. In all things, trust in God. Trust in Him. Listen, have your ears open. Right? For whatever the instruction is coming. Sometimes they take a bus, go down, so you don't know who you're going to meet. But go. Right? Have faith. Trust God. You're leaving from Jamaica to Canada takes faith. It's a faith walk.
Faith move.
It's like walking on high wire.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Anytime you can lose your balance. Anytime at all. But just trust and go. Right? If you decide to look, don't be like me trying to look back. Don't be like Lot's wife. Funny thing is that a lady at work said to me, Jonathan, you need to take out the Jamaican chip, put it in the drawer, and put in the Canadian chip. Right?
Yeah.
Right? There are some things you got to just leave.
Yes.
Right? And I give kudos to my wife. She's very instrumental in me adapting so quick. Because I'm not really that flexible.
Shout out to Sister Jackson.
Yes. I'm not really that flexible, but because of her. And she's always upfront and straight, said, this is that and that is that.
Yeah.
Right? And she's always looking, she's signing me up on this, she's fixing my LinkedIn page, she's doing this, she's looking.
Always busy doing something.
Yes, who can I be attracted to, and so on and so on and so forth. So you need stuff like that. The worst thing you can do in a place like Canada is to isolate. It's not like Jamaica.
Yes.
Jamaica is small and people are forced to know you because it's small. Canada is big, nobody don't have to know you.
Yeah.
Right? Because there are 10,000 like you.
At the end of every Transcend show, we have something that we call a 3-second word of wisdom. That we ask our guests to give and to take us out. I'm going to ask you to give 3-second word of wisdom to take us out by asking you this final question. Is God in migration?
Yes, He is. Obey God and let Him deal with the consequences.
Tell him again. Look in that camera, Jonathan, and tell him again.
Obey God and let Him deal with the consequences.
Amen. That's it, folks. Another exciting episode of the Thinking Christian Talk Show. We are unlocking truth, and it is our pursuit to transcend lives. I want to say thank you, viewers, for tuning in. I want to say thank you for being faithful in watching this episode straight to the end. Join us again for another exciting episode. Same time, same place. Remember to click that like, share, and subscribe button right here below. Do it with me, Jonathan. Right here below. Yes. If you like what we're doing, if you are blessed, click that subscribe button. Thank you for joining us. We believe that truth needs to be unlocked and lives must be transcended. Thank you, and join us again. Walk good. Until next time. God bless.